And we got one. You alright, brother? Want cigarettes? Brother, you alright? Yeah, he's kind of melting down. See, I feel bad, like I got a camera rolling, I'm gonna stick it in his face. Usually when I get ones like this, I try to not film them right away. I'm gonna see where this one goes. I'll be right back. See, now I have the thing right now, I'm just chasing the guy around. The problem down here, I tried to get him over here. He's like, stay away from me, and just went back into the street. Now he's back up here yelling. I was like, come on, brother, speak to me, brother. He's like, no, get away from me. He's punched himself in the face. I threw in a Jesus Christ to see what would happen. I didn't get a reaction to that, but yeah, he's certainly causing a scene. I talked to this guy before. This is one that I got like a couple months ago, and when I got to him, I remember he took a cigarette and stopped for a second and like kind of talked to me lucidly, and then went right back to screaming and walking around again. So yeah, he came across the street here. I followed him down the street, just yelling after him, brother, brother, brother. And he occasionally turn around and say, get away from me, I don't want to talk to you. Like, come on, brother, Jesus loves you. Just to see because if it's a demonic entity, they definitely respond to Jesus, the name Jesus. I've seen it happen even before I understood what they're responding to. I figured that out. Like when I first started dealing with entities down in Chinatown, when I thought it was some sort of strange, like cult of homeless people that were having private meetings about me and my friend, because they would all say the same thing. They'd all act the same way and use the same words. And it took a while for me to understand what was happening, and it was actually demonic entities who, that's why they're all talking the same, because they all have the same voice. They all pull, there's like a consciousness there that they're all a part of. I've explained this all before. It's settled science. But what happens is they're where we, in our kind of consciousness, can get the best, we can pull the best of stuff from. They have like an opposite thing where they're hobbled by their lowest common denominator among their, you know, they always call it legion. Like, we're legion, yeah, but most of you are fucking retarded. There's nothing smart too. Like, everybody talks about the intelligence of demonic entities. In my opinion, they have the age on their side. I mean, these things have been around, you know, for a long time, and they've kind of learned their way around how to deal with humans and how to infect people. But as far as intelligence, they're easily baited. You can make them angry real quick, you know. They don't seem to have a huge vocabulary. They're very fixated on pigs. And I think that goes back to the biblical story with Jesus and the pigs when he put them, well, they asked to be put into the pigs. And when he put them into the pigs, they all jumped into the water up a cliff. That came because he was trying to get a demon out of a man who had been living at a graveyard near a town. And he got it out of him. And there was a bunch of them in this guy. That's what happens too. It's like, it's not just one demon sometimes in people. It could be multiple. You know, from a few to a few dozen to I don't know how many they can go to. So yeah, they're not. They're clever, I guess, because they can obfuscate themselves, so they can stay in the bodies they're in. But yeah, that guy was just smashing himself in the face, calling himself stupid. Yeah, he was really hitting himself too. But he wouldn't let me get near him. every time I'd go to corner him, he would run, like, you know, boogie out of there. And then, like, I'm on that street, and I'm like, well, to anyone looking on to the situation, I'm just fucking, I'm making this guy's life worse. Yeah, I'm just like, I'm harassing this dude now. And it's like, yeesh. Now, it used to be, before I knew what was happening, they would always come to me. They would come to me and talk. And then at some point, they stopped doing that, and I realized it was because of the camera. The worst thing you can do to a demon is expose it. And they may not know exactly what it is, what the device is that I'm holding. But again, I'm going to invoke, it's not a good word. I'm going to compare it to the double slit experiment. Once again, they like the way the atoms knew they were being measured, but they weren't sure how. I think demons, they know they're being looked at. So they don't actually have to know that it's a phone. You know, like when they see me coming, they're like, oh, he's recording this, he's making a video. They just know there's something that can detect them. And they stay away from it, you know? Which is kind of what always happens. I mean, very rarely do I start interacting with one on film and I get anything good out of it. You know, usually I'm just chasing them. But whenever I don't have the camera on, they'll talk to me. You know, they usually want to talk to you. That guy was in a bit of a state, so I don't know about that situation back there, but I don't know. He kind of disappeared too. Like when I was just back there, when I started up again, after chasing him around the street, like in circles. We're going behind the cars. Like he goes up behind the car, and I go the other way, and it was ridiculous. Now I look like a psycho. You know, like why am I chasing this guy around? But yeah, it's the fucking camera. I want to catch something now. You know, like I want to get it on film. I got a couple before throughout the years I've been doing this, but yeah, it sucks. So right away, like back then when I first heard him coming, I turned it off and I tried to approach him that way, and that didn't help either. But I did talk to him at one point, like a video a couple months ago. The same guy I talked to. I don't know. You know, you gotta keep trying though. God loves a trier. I gotta pop into 333 for a minute. Fucking white woman at my ass in line at Ross. Oh, Jesus, it's like, you know better. So many people, I think they, you know, because personal space isn't really a concept in a lot of places outside of the West. Even the Asians who are closest to us, hence the Asian Caucasian Alliance, they don't have any concept of personal space at all. They're almost the worst offenders, but I don't mind because they're my favorite people outside of my own people are the Asians. I'll tell you, I did a video called I Love Asians. I might have mentioned it every time I talk about them. But yeah, but white people usually know that there's a personal space thing when you're in line, right? You don't have to act like it's Ellis Island. You gotta give someone a little space. I had this white woman. She was so close to me that I started kind of fucking with her by like moving like an inch or two, and then she'd move an inch or two. Then I'd do a slide, and she'd come and fill in the gap. At one point, I kind of turned around and looked at her like, "Are you fucking serious right now?" She's with another lady, and they're talking to each other, but it's like, what the fuck? Speaking of race stuff, right? I'm in the aisle over at the toy aisle, and how you doing? And I'm like humming to myself, because I always kind of hum when I think about it, or sing to myself, because it's a good way to keep people away from you. So I'm fucking humming zippity doo dah with the occasional my, what a wonderful day thrown in there. And I'm like, I feel two people come in the aisle next to me, and they're talking, and then they're just real quiet, and I'm thinking, are they looking at me? And I'm like, oh, I'm singing something from song from the South. And as I look up, it's a black couple. And I'm like, oh, I don't think they knew what I was singing because they were young. But it's like, I'm not used to having black people here, you know? I mean, as we've gone over many times, prior to the COVID, we didn't have any. Like, there were a handful in the neighborhood. So now that they're everywhere, I'm not used to that. So, but if they were like a little bit more activism-isy, like Antifa type style, or whatever, if they were a little bit more up on the situation, they would probably fucking freak out, you know? I was singing it before they got there, so it wasn't like I saw them and started dropping fucking Remus fucking music, but, you know, I was singing it. So now I'm like, well, I just have to keep doing it. I have to keep, you know, it's like when you see a cop, right? You want to run away, but you're like, well, hey, then I'll look guilty. Same thing here. So I'm just going to keep singing fucking Zippity Doodah in the... I mean, I didn't even know that was racist until, you know, later on in life. And is it even racist? I don't even know what the deal is with that movie. But apparently it's so terribly racist that would, you know, it would kill people if you watched it, I guess. Modern day people. It was fine enough to be a movie years ago, but, you know, we've come a long way from the good old days. So I just kept humming it. And I said, well, I'm not going to tell you the next part. But there was a couple more parts of that were kind of similar. I just kept singing it. And by the time I was in line, surrounded by people like that, I'm like, are one of these people going to hear this and fucking take a swing at me or something? You don't know. You don't know. But, you know, I was singing it before I thought of it. It was just a tune that popped in my head. Do you believe me? Okay, good. Yeah, that guy, he's no longer around. I first heard him, like when I turned on my camera here, when I first fired it up. I heard him like he came from behind me, like way down there, smashing things. As he was walking, you might have seen him, he's kicking things and breaking things, and yeah, it's a real thing. I mean, that demonic entities are not only in people, but they're everywhere trying to get in people. Just kind of sitting around. The other day I was saying, if you had one of those like fluorescent lights, how you can see like body fluids, if they had the demon equivalent, and they actually do, it's those red lenses they had in the Vietnam War, they had to stop using. They had to stop using them because the soldiers were seeing demons and freaking out and shooting at nothing, shooting at the air. And yeah, so I mean, it does exist, such a thing. I'd love to have a pair of goggles like that. They're banned, of course. Like, would be illegal to have them for no other reason other than that. You know, there's nothing about them that's toxic, or that's just how they do things, you know. In a similar way, for a different reason, we don't have almond trees in the country. They're illegal. Look into fucking what that is. I wasn't trying to be secret squirrel asshole about the almond trees, but I'm afraid if I say what it is, I'll get flagged for medical misinformation. But yeah, it's pretty interesting. It's just another one of those things, you know. They have a lot of stuff like that. There's things like that, you know, we don't even know about. Dr. Beater type stuff. Peter Beater. He's a guy that used to do these audio cassettes. He had like an audio cassette subscription service. And he was spilling a lot of government secrets back in his day. And there was a band called the Wanderers. It was Steve Vader's first band after the Dead Boys. And before Lords of the New Church, and they have a song called Dr. Beater. That guy, Sid Baters, was talking about a lot of the stuff that people like us talk about now. Way back in the early 80s. And he went on to pepper that kind of lyricism throughout the Lords of the New Church albums. He had a song called Open Your Eyes, which is one of their early videos where, I mean, it sounds like fucking me, you know? He died under mysterious circumstances. Of course, right? In Paris, they said he was hit by a car. And it killed him. I don't know. You know, I of course, think that sounds strange. But in the circumstances surrounding it are very weird. I'm not going to go into the whole thing, but it's a rabbit hole that's it's kind of interesting to look into if you feel so inclined. But yeah, he was a great frontman. He was like one of the best from his era. And Lords of the New Church had, I almost call him Brian Robertson. Brian James from The Damned. That was his first band after leaving The Damned. Which is really weird because The Damned were known for their riffs, you know. Think of the classic New Rose. Neat, 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 things like that. And Lords of the New Church were kind of like a more dancey kind of, I don't know, new wavy kind of band. And their management was Miles Copeland, who is a very deep spook. Government guy. His dad was a CIA man. So they were all, he was in a pit of vipers. And being the kind of guy he was, I don't know how that, I mean, he must have seen his lyrics and what he was talking about. He's talking about them, you know? And the Lords broke up. They had some internal kind of fighting. They did okay. Like, they sold a lot of records, but probably not as many records as IRS, Miles Copeland's label, wanted them to. Yeah, all his stuff was, it was like CIA records, IRA records, CIA management. He used all government fucking terms for all his fucking production companies and management companies. Really weird that whole. So I mean, add that on top of, you know, the kind of guy Steve was, and that's why it sounds weird to me, or it sounded weird to me. But I mean, I think that about everything normally, but in this case, you know, it's too bad. He was a great one. He was a great one. All right, ride time. I'm gonna head in. Thanks for checking in and making sure I haven't gotten the van yet. It'll eventually get here, but I like to hold it at bay as long as I can. Until next time, don't blame the teacher, blame the school.